Hey guys, let's get more news about Miami Heat, but first, don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. We need water. How South Florida groups are helping those hardest hit by extreme heat. The first day that Denny Baldonado went out on heat patrol for the Miami-Dade County Homeless Trust this past summer, it was so hot steam was coming off the sidewalks and people were lined up on both sides of the street near the 2nd Avenue Bridge to catch a sliver of shade. He wore a bright red shirt emblazoned with a thermometer and the words, "Excessive Heat Alert," that makes Homeless Trust outreach workers like Baldonado easy to spot as they fan out offering water, cooling towels, and electrolytes to those living on the streets during especially scorching days. It's like a red target on our backs. They knew who we were, and when they saw us, they began calling out, "Water. We need water," said Baldonado, who works for New Hope, a Miami-Dade nonprofit that provides outreach services for the Homeless Trust. Whether it's providing immediate relief when temperatures soar, educating the community on the dangers of excessive heat and climate change, advocating on behalf of outdoor workers, educating students, and involving them in climate change issues, or working to increase the local tree canopy, South Florida nonprofits are playing an increasingly important role in making life in the sun safer, cooler, and more sustainable. In recent years, the discussion about extreme heat has evolved. The community has become accustomed to stepping up to help with weather emergencies such as hurricanes and flooding or cold snaps, said Ron Book, chairman of the Homeless Trust, but extreme heat has added a new dimension. Extreme heat should rise to the same level of disaster planning as flooding and hurricanes, said Nikisha Williams, the Miami Foundation's vice president of Collective Impact. Extreme heat doesn't just make people miserable, it can also be deadly, lead to hospitalizations, and exacerbate pre-existing conditions. The Centers for Disease Control estimates that 1,220 people are killed by extreme heat every year in the United States. Heat stress caused by excessive heat is a major challenge to global health, said Rajiv Chowdhury, professor and chairman of Florida International University's Department of Global Health. It remains the leading cause of weather-related deaths and can exacerbate underlying illnesses including cardiovascular disease, diabetes, mental health, asthma, and can increase the risk of accidents and transmissions of some infectious diseases. Last year was the warmest year on record in Miami-Dade County and the second warmest year in Broward County. So far, 2024 has been a scorcher too. We started efforts to counter the effects of extreme heat in 2023 when things got to what I thought was the most excessive heat I've ever seen, and this year has just reinforced that, said Book. Through the end of September, Homeless Trust outreach workers were mobilized for dozens of heat advisory days, generally when the heat index, a combination of heat and relative humidity, is expected to be 105 degrees or higher for 2 consecutive hours. However, the community as a whole, Book said, doesn't automatically think of the silent faces of the homeless when the temperature soars. This summer, for example, while Baldonado was distributing water at the Greyhound bus station at the Miami Intermodal Center by Miami International Airport, he came across a homeless man who was laid out on the floor. People were passing him by, assuming he was sleeping. He wasn't. He was extremely dehydrated, he was too weak to stand, said Baldonado. After offering him water, Baldonado called emergency services, and the man was later admitted to the hospital. Video: Charles Barkley's hilarious reaction to Miami Heat's Dwayne Wade statue. Getting a statue is one of the biggest honors that can be bestowed upon any player. At the weekend, Dwayne Wade became the first to get one in Miami Heat history. The problem is, many feel that it looks nothing like him. Unsurprisingly, the internet has taken over and has been filled with memes of the statue over the past few days. Wade himself has been a good sport about it and seems to be laughing along rather than losing any sleep over how the statue looks. One thing is for sure though, the moment Wade's statue was unveiled, a lot of NBA fans would have started looking forward to Charles Barkley's reaction to it. Now, we finally have Barkley's reaction to the Heat's statue of Wade. And it is safe to say that he did not disappoint. Here is the clip from NBA on TNT. Barkley said, "It's a great honor, but they've got to take that thing down. If you made an ugly statue, that's what it would look like. That thing's awful." Barkley went on to add, "The statue was so bad they had to put all his stats behind it so you know who it was." Shaq, who played a starring role alongside Wade as the Heat won the first NBA championship in the organization's history, laughed along to Barkley's comments. He himself is a possible candidate to get a statue outside the Kessler Center one day. At the end of the day, it is all fun and games. During times when there is not enough to laugh about, at least Wade's statue brought more laughter to the world. That is a net positive in our books. When fans think about D. Wade, they will think about the 3 championships, the trio with LeBron James and Chris Bosh, and all the great moments he produced on the court. The statue is a footnote. Utah Jazz mailer, are the Miami Heat interested in Walker Kessler? Welcome to the Utah Jazz inbox, where today we explore the recent trade rumors surrounding Walker Kessler and the Miami Heat. Every week, we'll send out a prompt on X asking you about the questions you have about the Jazz. Then we'll respond to as many as we can in that week's inbox and on the Jazz Notes podcast. Walker has been impressive. Do you think the Jazz would trade him to the Miami Heat, considering he's young and we have the pick of 27 of them? With complete transparency, these questions were sent on Monday, hours before Jazz forward Taylor Hendricks suffered a broken leg and dislocated ankle in the team's loss to the Dallas Mavericks. With that in mind, it's important to address how Hendricks' injury could change some of the Jazz's short and long-term plans. Losing Hendricks is a destabilizing factor for the Jazz's entire season. The second-year forward had earned a starting spot, and maximizing his reps and development was a high priority for the team this year. After losing Hendricks, the Jazz will have to re-examine how their 26 minutes should be allocated and how that relates to each player on the team's roster. The ripple effect could cause the Jazz to be more aggressive in moving their roster around, or it could force them to step up and take a more conservative approach to team building for the rest of the season. If the Jazz see this as an opportunity to dedicate more developmental minutes to fewer players, Kessler's value could move up the team's priority list. If the Jazz determine this is a lost season, they may opt to move further into the rebuild by maximizing asset acquisition, in which case they may be more willing to move their starting center. With Hendricks' injury still fresh and the season still early, it's difficult to predict where the team will go. Now, if we approached Kessler in isolation and ignored Hendricks' injury, this would become an interesting conversation. The Athletic's Jovan Buha reports that Kessler is a name the Miami Heat have tested in the past and, with his promising start to the year, could be someone they revisit this season. The Jazz were reportedly seeking 2 first-round picks in exchange for Kessler this offseason, but were excited about the center's development in the early parts of the season. The question then is, do the Jazz view Kessler as a long-term solution at center, or would they prefer to sell the third-year center at a premium? And you fan? What do you think of the situation of Walker Kessler? Leave your opinion in the comments.